From Super League to Olympic distance to age group world records to Kona. Go longer with the right fuel at the right time with SFuels.
I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, and it's breakfast with Bob.
Poncho Man, everybody. Welcome to our 11th year of Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Huggles on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas as Fuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Quintanaroo, Zoot, the original triathlon brand, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. The first inductee into the Ironman Triathlon Hall of Fame, the 6-time Ironman World Champion. Please give it up for Dave Scott. How you doing, Big D?
Very illustrious introduction as always.
Well,
Yeah,
I can't think of anybody
nice,
who deserves
No,
the accolades. The little sport we got involved with in 1980. This is a bigger crowd than we had in the first race.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get him in their Speedos and we'll be ready.
Exactly. I mean, when you got into this silly thing, would you have ever imagined there'll be 140 Ironman branded events around the world, an Olympic sport? I mean, none of us had a clue.
No clue at all. I mean, there was no entry fee. We just waltzed onto the island with a dirty bike and said, "Let's go." So, the growth has been magnificent, and I think with the 2-year hiatus that we've all had, coming back here, sort of the spirit and the hungriness is pretty heightened.
You've always been one of those guys who felt, and a number of interviews you've done over the years, people could be attacking the course more. They could be going harder, with a lot of people sort of sitting back and waiting for the run. I think now we've got a group between Gustav and Christian. Nobody's sitting back. And this swim group, there could be 10, 15 guys together where normally it was an Andy Potts or was a Josh Amberger. There could be 10, 12 guys together who all can ride. I bet you're excited to watch what happens here.
Well, I think both the men and the women's field could have the same scenario.
Absolutely.
And the men's field obviously is extremely deep, and there are a lot of great swimmers. I think your prediction that we're going to have not a breakaway group of 2 or 3, but maybe a dozen in that front group. And we're all enamored with the bike. The bike is extraordinarily fast. The times that they're riding all their Ironman races are off the charts. But it's not a bike race. And I know we've talked about this over the years. With the talent that is in both fields, they are not showing it, and I'm pretty harsh with my words, on the marathon.
Nope.
All of them suffer on the run, and even Jan Frodeno and Craig Alexander, just brilliant runners, they didn't run to their potential here. I'd love to see that, where we have some breakthrough performances, and the men that are running now and what they do in the 70.3s, they should be running 2:30 here off the bike. So if they get
low
this,
2:30s.
Yeah, well, low
even,
2:30s.
yeah.
Yeah, how about 30.5?
Yes.
Yeah, let's not stretch it. I mean, they're running 106, 107, 108 in the 70.3s. They should run 2:30 here, and we've seen 2:30 runs in other races, not 2:30 low. So we'll see. I saw Annie Haug running this morning, and she's brilliantly fast, but there's other great runners, and the women should be well under that 250 mark.
Exactly. Yeah, Laura Phillip out there. I mean, and Daniela is on a different planet right now, and Lucy's getting better and better. But it is fascinating, because if you go back in 89, you guys ran really the equivalent of 238, 239 off the bike, because the transition was included in it. And now, when it's still 239, 238, and really haven't had anybody do that. So it doesn't translate. It's interesting. You think people are just leaving too much on the bike?
I kind of speculate that way. I mean, just going back to Craig Alexander, which is the generation after me, and I worked with Craig and just forewarned him on the bike, don't get in a cat and mouse game where you're having to ratchet up your watts almost double of what you should be holding. In other words, the output can be very high, thinking I've got to stay up with the lead group. And I said, don't get into that pattern. Be up in the front so you can kind of dictate the pace.
Right.
And I think the lead men and lead women, they don't want to sit back and say, well, I hope I don't die. I hope I don't die. This pace is pretty rigorous. Well, of course it is. But you have to be aggressive. And I think the aggressiveness is also shown on the front end of the bike and saying, this is my race. And the other athletes are aware of that. They're seeing whomever. It says Blumenfeld or Eden or Detlef. There's such a slew of talent. And Sam Long coming up. It's hard to know, but I think if you come in with the mindset, whether you're a pro or an amateur, you have to come in the mindset that I don't fear that I'm going to fail. And I talk to a lot of athletes here that say, oh, it's Kona, it's windy, it's hot, it's humid. Of course it is. Of course
There's no surprises.
You came over here for this event. This isn't a ping pong tournament. So they know what the conditions are,
right.
But they're not the same all day long. So if the wind comes up, you don't have wind for the whole 180K, 112 miles. You get crosswinds that can be pretty ferocious. And today is kind of unique. I bet it's windy out there on the Queen K. So if it's like this on Thursday and Saturday, it could be a challenging day on the bike. You have to leave something for the run.
So what a lot of people don't realize, they remember 89. And what they don't remember is that really you, because of injuries and family, 90, 91, 92, 93, you didn't race. Coming back to, because we've seen how much the world has changed from 2019 to now. How hard, it used to be, if somebody went sub 8 hours, it was very unique. Now every race someone's going sub 8 hours. Coming back here in 1994, how hard was that for you after not being able to race all those years?
Well, it almost seemed like a raw race. It almost seemed like my first one in a lot of ways, because I had respect for the athletes. I was not racing against them during that sort of hiatus. And I just felt like, well, I'm coming back as I did for my first race in 1980 with a lot of unknowns. I didn't fear those, but I didn't know what the potential was that I could possibly do. And I was 40 that year. And so I just thought, well, it's a wide open door.
Yeah.
And I had great respect. I knew Greg Welch, who ended up winning that race, was a darn good athlete, and it could come down to several people. So I think, in hindsight, why did it take 5 years off? Injuries, a couple of kids, and a few other things that popped up. You kind of sort of look back in your career without regrets, but at the same time, I think I should have raced or could have raced during that time, and obviously Mark had a few good years in there.
But coming back coming back that year, and it came down to going into the energy lab, Welchie's 11, 12 seconds ahead. You're in second place. At that point, you're sort of playing with house money, because you probably knew, the rest of us had no clue that you would be up there with that. So when you came down Energy Lab, you must have been thinking, I can catch this guy. He's right there.
I was feeling better, but ironically, we stayed about the same. We got off the bikes together. Greg immediately opened up about a 20-second gap, and it took me a couple of miles. And so we were matching miles all the way out to the Energy Lab, but he still had this 20-second margin going downhill towards the ocean. 2 miles roughly. I thought, okay, I can make up time on him, and as you said, it came down to 11 seconds, and there was a great aerial shot of that spread with the two of us, but I just couldn't close that final 11 seconds. I knew the race wasn't over, but coming out of there, I kind of got this wave of fatigue, and as I came back onto the Queen K, I knew that the margin had grown quite a bit.
Right.
And Greg had this psychological seed that says, I've got this. And I kept thinking, well, maybe he'll have trouble over the last couple of miles. I can catch him. But I lost it coming out of the Energy Lab, and it was his day.
But coming down Lee Drive, knowing what you'd gone through, right? It'd been a number of years, and coming back and getting second place, you shocked the world that day. 40 years old. People don't think that much of it now, but being 40 and coming back to the top end as an endurance athlete was not considered possible back then, especially with that much time away.
Yeah, it was an unknown. I had looked at some of the other sports and marathoners. Carlos Lopes, as you probably remember, at 39 had a great race, not 40. And you just didn't see a string of athletes at 40 that were at the top, or could they even win? I just felt like there was that opportunity. I got close, but not close enough.
I love it. Dave, with the racing that's happening this weekend, with all the athletes, everybody's been away from this place for 3 years. How does it feel to be back?
Well, the energy is unbelievable.
It really is.
It is, and I think that energy where a lot of people, and certainly the professional athletes, but amateurs as well, that were gearing up. I'm going to be here in 2020. No, we can't come. 2021, oh, for sure. And there were many, many meetings with the Ironman team that we're going to be back in 2021 in Kona, and that fell through. And so for the athletes to be in this kind of flex or limbo, it psychologically very, very difficult. And to ramp back up again, and you know, people that are in the audience here that are racing, it's been a hard time. So getting back here, knowing the gun is going to go off on Thursday or Saturday, we've got 5,000 athletes that are signed up. The energy is magnificent.
Yeah, and I personally love the fact that we've got two separate races, because I think one of the frustrations of trying to watch a women's race in the past, you knew where first, second, third were. You didn't know where the people were 8th, 9th, and 10th, and now you will. You'll see the whole race play out in front of us.
Yeah, it's not only that. I mean, obviously, I think the women are overjoyed to have their own event, and I've seen a lot of the split events where they have it on different days in the 70.3, and I think it certainly is great for the women. And they got the old guys in there, and I can say that because if I had the notion,
are.
Yeah. If I had the notion of racing, I'd be in that first wave with the women, and they would clobber me on Tuesday. But the other nice thing is that all the age groups are going off with their age group bracket. It's not a mass start, and I like the competitiveness of this. I don't like the wave starts. I have said this to lots of different organizations. I like when the athletes know who their competitors are.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, whether you're last in your group and you can see the second to last person and you have the impetus to put the gas down, now when they're starting in their waves, it allows that, and it also allows for the spectators to know what place they're in, if that's part of the game that they've come over here to World Ironman Championships.
Love it. Dave, as always, thank you so much for taking time. Love it. Round of applause. 6-time Ironman World Champion, Mr. Dave Scott. Poncho Man, take us out.
On the island, we do it all in style. From the mountains to the ocean, windward to leeward side. Cause it's breakfast with Bob.
Poncho Man, everybody.